to the Be Better podcast with Infinity Real Estate Services. True stories from Bakersfield's business owners and entrepreneurs. We have sold over 50,000 homes in the Kern County area, and we are still going. Delete your limiting beliefs. If you have a dream, turn it into a goal. Only massive, inspired action will get you to where you want to be. If you're starting a business or looking to grow one, you're in the right spot. Welcome to the Be Better experience.
What's up, guys? It's Lee Barrison here with the Be Better podcast and Infinity Real Estate Services. And we're coming to you live from our headquarters. And today, myself and my son, of course, are going to host another podcast. And we're going to talk a little bit about the current market. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the challenges that our agents are facing right now. So Noah, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, although I am a little bit under the weather, so bear with me.
No, not a problem. You sound fine. So, plus you're 18. So, with that being said, you'll recover in about 2 shakes of lamb's tail. I thought it would be good for us to talk a little bit about the challenges that not only you're facing, but maybe a lot of other agents are also facing as well in today's current real estate market. Okay. So the NAR said, or they created a page or a post saying that 82% of all the agents last year did not sell one house. And that number is dramatically getting even worse over time, okay? The NAR also mentions that the average agent in the United States sells about 3.7 houses per year. And they also mention that the average agent has a shelf life of 12 to 18 months. So meaning when they get their real estate license and they think that, they're able to control their own life and their own schedule and, they're going to make all this money, within 12 to 18 months, they realize, oh, snap, this ain't working. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? So they go back to their real job. And so I guess, I want to talk to you because, you've been licensed and active for almost 3 to 4 months, right? And you've put the work in, and obviously it's not paying off as quickly as maybe you anticipated. But what are some of the challenges that you see in your daily business right now?
Well, me personally, obviously, just getting into the business and also taking into account my age, right? So the people that my circle, I should say, or my sphere of people that I know, like, and trust, and that know, like, and trust me, it's a completely different sphere versus, your average agent, right? You're somebody older than I, Sure. So like, already even just using you as an example, right? Like you have friends, you have past clients, you have people that are, your age, you're on the same level as them, they've probably bought houses off of you. And so I am in a little bit of a more different position because, my friends are, 18, 19, so like they're not too much older, right? And so with that being said, I mean, I feel like the challenges that I am facing myself is the lack of, past clients, right? So without past clients, that takes away a lane of business for me. And so who is there for me to talk to? Well, number one, expired listings, people who have already signed a contract, said, yes, I will pay you a commission and I want to sell my home. So people who have motivation to sell, for sale by owners, those are the only 2 people in this world that, openly tell you, I want to sell my house, right? Sure. Right. Also talking to people, kind of, tapping into your database a little bit, reaching out and saying, hey, I'm Lee's son and, we work together and trying to see if I can help out with any of your people's needs. Right. And so on top of that, my last little thing would just be cold doors, cold calls, right? Circle dialing, hopping on Mojo and just calling a neighborhood and seeing if I can find something, right? And so with that being said, I feel like, and we talked about this just the other day, I'm just getting into business and it'll start like this, right? at this point in my career, I'm right here, and I'm calling, like I said, expireds, FISBOs. I'm calling, circle dialing. But then I get a listing, or then I sell something, and then I have a buyer, right? And then next year, I have 2 past clients, or 3, or however many that I can call.
You're building that pipeline.
Building that pipeline, and so it's a different type of thing. And also another thing is there's a lot of you say you call it a drunk monkey, right? There's a lot of drunk monkeys out there saying, if people, whether it be somebody I'm calling or even agents in the business, sadly saying, it's business is slow right now. The market, the market. The market is the reason for everything bad.
Sure.
And so I've been taught to believe that is a lie. Mm-hmm. That is a lie. And so, and of course the market does play a role in your business, right? But, I'm a firm believer that if you put in the work, if you put in the time, if you make the calls, if you knock on the doors, and you simply show up every single day, something's got to pop, right? And you shouldn't be a part of that 82% that didn't even sell a home last year. I mean, gosh. There's probably another percent out there of people who sold one home and it was their own home and it was a short sale, right? And so it's I believe that agents in this industry and that is a scary number, 82%. So it's like it gets people thinking, well, what about me? What if I don't sell anything this year? I think that is just a drunk monkey, like I said. The voice on your shoulder, the little devil right here saying, oh, you're not going to sell anything this year. Oh, it's not going to happen. Oh, it's not going to happen. Well, basically, we're here to say today, it is possible, right?
100%.
What do you think about that? That whole stigma of, oh, the market's bad and nothing's selling. Nobody's buying homes right now because of X reason, right? What do you think about that?
Well, that's a good question. I think that, for a lot of folks out there that are in the business that have never experienced a normal market, mm-hmm. this isn't what they expected, right? Mm-hmm. So, for instance, when I got into the business in 2002, the market began to go straight up, right? And so a monkey could sell real estate back then, right? It didn't require any skills or any major, practicing and role playing and whatnot, right? All you had to do was simply show up, and you get paid a lot of money. That lasted till about mid 2007, right? So there was about a good 5 years to where, basically, you really didn't have to do much. Mm-hmm. You just sit around and get paid. But then all of a sudden, the real estate gods turned off the lights in mid 07, 08. And between then and 2012, then basically I saw agents' cars getting repoed out of our parking lot at the office. I saw many agents go through divorce, bankruptcies, losing property. There was even talks of some agents that committed suicide. It was very, very crazy. And during that time, you had to invest twice the amount of time into the business to get paid the same amount as you were when you're doing nothing, if that makes sense, okay? So the market went straight up, then it went straight down. 2012 hit, and that's when the market began to rise again. And that's when people got back into the business, and they weren't at the gas station pumping gas so often and working at the grocery store, right? But they actually got back into the business. And then come between 2012, there was a gradual incline till 2020 when COVID hit. And when COVID came along, everybody thought the sky was going to fall. We're all going to die, right? Mm-hmm. And we are no longer essential, right? And there was a lot of agents again that really panicked during that time of of my real estate career. But then the funny thing happened where the sky didn't fall, but yet COVID, since COVID and as of today, March 16th, 2026, the market has gone up by about 35% since then. So again, here we've ridden this wave of not really having to do much, even during COVID, especially when you couldn't even show a house. You just submit the offer and write it up, and then, you can't be around each other anymore, right? And then, and right now, Noah, right, we're in the most normal market that we've been in over 2 decades, right? And so, for I guess for the folks that are concerned about their well-being in this business, right? And for the folks out there that aren't able to understand how to put a deal together in today's market, what they also need to understand is that it's a very, very normal market.
Normal market. Now, what makes you say that when John Doe on 123 Main Street said, the market's gone down by 50%?
Well, John Doe probably sells, I don't know, carts of milk or something like that on the corner, and there's a lot of folks out there that think that they can rely on Zillow. They think that they know what's going on in the market, but again, it's a very different time right now, and we have to embrace the struggle and embrace the process, right? Which is very important, and understanding that there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, but I think you hit everything else on the head, and you said it earlier. You said it's the consistency of showing up every single day, doing the same thing every single day. And we call that repetitious boredom, where you're repeatedly doing the same thing every single day, expecting an outcome to finally, come into fruition. Mm-hmm. So, I think, for the 82% of the agents out there that didn't sell a house in the past year, which is a very scary number, to be honest with you. There's a few things lacking within their business that prevent them from selling houses. And so what do you think some of those things might be that they're not investing their time in doing in order to sell a few houses per year?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I think one thing that we've mentioned it in previous episodes, saying MMAs, right? So there are 2 things you can do throughout the day, right? Number 1 is admin work, paperwork. I gotta check this on my computer. I gotta look at Facebook. That's everything else. And then you can do MMAs, not mixed martial arts, but money-making activities. Now, what are these, right? Now, there are a few MMAs, right? So, number 1, the most important one is prospecting, right? And that's what we preach.
That's
a lot.
the vehicle of your business, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the business is like a shark, right? And a shark just needs to keep swimming to stay alive. I mean, if you stop prospecting, you stop swimming, right? So, prospecting is the oxygen in our business.
Yes.
And that is finding business, finding new business, even regardless of whether you have business or whether you don't. And one thing I think what separates an agent that does 3 deals a year versus 43 is prospecting. And why I say this is because a lot of agents in today's industry I see is they'll get a deal, they'll put something in escrow, they'll have something on the market, and it's their baby. And they got to coddle it, they got to sing to it, they got to lullaby, you got to put it to sleep, right? They got to sell it. I got to make sure this closes.
Sure.
And they stop everything else they're doing. They stop everything else. Oh, I can't talk. I got to make sure this sells.
No more money.
No more.
No more MMAs.
No more prospecting. And when you cut off prospecting, essentially you cut off everything else, right? Because you can't get any more business. So what are the other MMAs, right? So you got prospecting, right? You got setting appointments and going on appointments. Going on appointments, whether it be with a buyer or with
Can
a
you
seller.
go on appointments without prospecting?
That's why I said no. You cut off all you cut off all other lanes of business, right, of making money. You essentially you say you stop making money right there, right? Because you cap out, right? You have a listing, you have something in escrow. That's all fine and dandy, but what else are we doing? Who else are we talking to? What else do we got cooking? We got
Sure.
any other people we're talking to? So going on appointments, right? Getting contracts signed, showing homes, doing things that are going to lead to either a contract signed, an offer, collecting offers, creating money, creating opportunity, creating closings. That is what MMAs are. And so now let me ask you, is checking Facebook or scrolling through Instagram or, dancing around the office, is that an MMA?
No. No, I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many agents that want to be, these, no offense to anybody out there. God willing, it works for you, but still, is it predictable and is it duplicatable? And if you really think about that, dancing at an open house or,
Doing a TikTok video.
doing TikTok videos and, not engaging with people, I guess is the best way to put it, because when you're on social media, you're not necessarily an engagement right there. You're waiting and hoping and praying that somebody reaches out to you versus reaching out to the masses, right? Talking to people every single day, having dialogue with people every single day. And again, here's the question for you. Why don't more agents do that, knowing that if they consistently do it, then they're going to consistently get paid?
Yeah, and so you ask a question, and I'll ask you this question, right?
Okay.
Let's say I'm an agent that is I'm in the 82%. I can't sell a home. I can't buy me one, right?
Sure.
But Leah, I'm calling people every single day, and I'm making my calls, and the market's just not working. So I don't even see the point of making calls anymore. The market's bad.
Okay, so and so that's the drunk monkey right there. You're telling yourself something, because whatever you tell yourself, it becomes reality over time, right? So if you tell yourself, "Oh my God, I'm ugly," "Oh my God, I'm fat," "Oh my God, I don't," or whatever you want to tell yourself, whatever you say to yourself goes directly from your mouth to your brain, and then it becomes reality. Does that make sense? And so, for instance, if you tell yourself that the market's good every day, right? When we know it might not be as good as it used to be, but it's not as bad as it used to be either. Back in 1982, interest rates, imagine this, guys, right? For a second. For newer agents that haven't been around, I wasn't around, but back in 1982, interest rates were 18.5%. And what's the most common objection that we get from people nowadays? Oh, the rates are too high. What are they? 6%? 6.5%? Okay, well, listen, what about, if we rewind the tape to 82 and the rates were 18.5%? Was it worse then than it is now? Absolutely. 3 times as worse. But yet there were still agents that I know of that are still in the business today that still managed to sell real estate back then. Right? And so I think it really comes down to self-talk, right? So when you wake up in the morning, when you arrive at the office, remind yourself of what a great market it is right now. It's always a great market. It's always a great day to buy and sell real estate, right? But yet you have to show up to blow up. Because if you don't show up and if you don't consistently do the activities that you're referring to, then you're going to consistently not go to the bank to cash checks. And then eventually you're going to consistently look for a new job, right? And so I think that in today's world, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because self-talk is so important right now. Agents back in the heyday from 2002 to 7 or 2020 to 2025, agents that were rocking and rolling in these markets where it was going straight up, they felt like they were like, man, I'm one of the best people on earth. This is, I'm a great salesperson. No, you didn't have to learn how to be a salesperson back then. All you had to do is basically show up and ask a few questions, and then you get a lot of contracts signed. But nowadays, I think it's more, and moving forward, is that the skill set's going to be really big, right? So if you want to be within the, let's say the 20% of all agents that are selling a lot of real estate, they're consistently showing up, they're consistently practicing, they're consistently talking to people every single day. And when I say talking, I mean dialogue, right? Like talking instead of posting or using AI and doing all this good stuff, which is important too. But human to human contact, I think, is always going to prevail versus anything else. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. And I want to touch on a point that you kind of made a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. Is back in the days, or even just you just said right now, all you had to do is show up and you got a lot of contracts signed, mm-hmm. right? I mean, we were talking with our coach about this not too long ago, but I mean, he was saying that in today's market, it's not harder, right? But it's just going to take a little bit more volume. It's just going to take a little bit more consistency. And that's why I think learning your ratios is such an important thing to do. Learning your numbers. How many people do I have to talk to get in front of somebody? How many people do I have to get in front of to get a contract signed? Now, how many contracts signed do I have to do to go to the bank and catch a
Okay, hold on real quick, guys. Let me press pause on that for a moment because that's a whole nother segment, okay? Mm-hmm. But what Noah's talking about right now is he's talking about business and business maturity, where if you understand your numbers, then all of a sudden all the emotions are out of the game. Am I right? Because if you know your ratios and your numbers, then you're not emotionally attached to anything at all. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
And that's where skill set comes in, right?
Yes.
And so let's say in back in COVID, you had to talk to 10 people a day, just an example, to get an appointment. Well, maybe now it's not, the people aren't harder to talk to. You just had to talk to more.
Sure.
The market and adjusting to the market. When the market's good, riding the wave, but when the market's bad, preparing for when that time comes, right? And like you said, today we're in a normal market.
Yeah.
So it's a normal market. And what does that exactly mean?
Well, a normal market is pretty simple. So basically, there is an ample amount of inventory for sale, right? Homes sit on the market for a longer period of time. Not all homes sell, right? For sale by owners need us more than ever right now. Buyers have more negotiating power, and that's kind of those are kind of the components of a normal market, right? Because an abnormal market, like let's pretend if the market's going straight up, okay? Well, this is what the market looks like. There's very, very few homes for sale. They typically sit on the market for hours, if not a few days at a time. They have multiple offers to choose from. And if you're a buyer, then you got to stick your neck out there and probably go above and beyond of what the seller's asking in order to even get your offer acknowledged, right? Now, vice versa, if the market's going straight down, right? And we'll use 2008 to 12 as an example. But I do remember a time back in mid-07 to 08, there was about 3,500 homes in Bakersfield for sale, okay? And then within a matter of about 6 to 8 months, there was 18,500 houses for sale. So it went from 3,500 houses to 18,500 houses for sale. So being that the inventory went through the roof, buyers had plenty of options, right? Meaning sellers had to be extremely competitive on price. If they get one offer, they should feel very lucky. And so those are the differences between a normal market and a not so normal market, whether it's going straight up or straight down. But right now, within 2 decades, we're now in this normal market where houses actually do sit on the market. Agents actually do have to work in order to get their home sold, their listing sold, meaning not so much open houses, but that's important, but meaning I think one of the hardest things that we have to deal with in a normal market is telling people the truth about price and terms and what it's actually going to take in order to get the home sold, right? Because a lot of the people that we work with, like sellers in the past, they're still living a year or two in the past. They're still thinking that their home is worth X. And they're still wondering, why is my house still in the market, after 6 weeks, but it hasn't sold? It's because we're in a normal market. But yet, if you want to get your listing sold quicker and, get your clients sold, then you absolutely have to tell the truth about price, terms, and what it's actually going to take to get the home sold. Because otherwise, you're going to take a listing and you're going to give everybody a pipe dream on selling the house. And then you're also going to be stuck for 6 months, 4 months, 6 months, whatever that listing period looks like, with that seller coming up with excuses as to why the home isn't selling. Mm-hmm. Right?
And that's never fun.
That's never fun. No, because basically then you're in the market of beating them up on the price week after week, because you knew from the get, when you had them sign that contract that it's overpriced. And the agents, like the 80% that haven't sold a house in 12 months, guess what? They will take that listing overpriced, low commission, bad terms, open houses every single day between 3 and 5 o'clock. I don't care what you and your family are doing. They're going to make crazy demands, but more importantly, the house might not even sell. And that's not a good feeling to have,
No, it's a burden.
Yeah.
And so, what are the biggest takeaways that, your average listener, somebody who's wanting to succeed in today's normal market, what are the biggest takeaways that you can leave them with?
Okay, good. And we'll wrap it up after this question. So I appreciate that question. That's a really, really good question. And it goes back to being honest. Okay, I'd rather walk away from not taking a listing from a seller that's unreasonable on price and unrealistic on what they want, versus giving them a pipe dream and taking that listing knowing that it's not going to sell at that price and it's going to take forever. And if you think about it, us as professional real estate agents, okay, mm-hmm. I consider that to be malpractice, right? It's almost like, if you have cancer, right? I'm a doctor, you're the patient, and I know you have cancer. And I know you're probably going to die in about 6 months if we don't figure this thing out. But I don't have the balls or the audacity to tell you the truth about what it's going to take. Like, hey, we got to get you into surgery like tomorrow, cut you open, remove whatever's inside of you that's going to kill you, and we got to sew you back up, and hopefully you live. And that's the brutal honesty that we have to also give our clients. Because otherwise, there's no sense in taking a listing, you know what I mean? That's not going to sell, because you're wasting everybody's time, including your own, So, good question, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is the volume? What does somebody exactly have to do on a daily basis? What are the things that are going to bring success in today's market? Like specific activities.
Well, if they have business partners, they should dress alike. Okay, so if you guys didn't notice, me and Noah have very similar shirts on, and we did not plan this, but I guess we think alike. So that's the way it is. But just to separate themselves from everybody else, just show up, be consistent, do the right thing, be honest with everybody. And if they don't accept it, it's not your fault. There's plenty of agents out there that they can work with that have not sold a home for 12 to 18 months, and that agent will basically do it for free. Mm-hmm. And so with that being said, if any of you guys want a list of those agents locally, there's about 80% of the agents that do 20% of the work, while 20% of the agents do 80% of the work, and you have to decide for yourself who you want to list with, who you want to work with, and who you want to honestly or be honest with, mm-hmm. I guess is the best way to put it. So, does that make sense?
Yes, makes perfect sense.
Very cool. All right, guys. So with that being said, thank you for watching. This is the Be Better podcast, March 16th. And if you have any questions, of course, we're always here to help you in your real estate world. Feel free to like, share, comment, and join our YouTube page and our podcasts on Apple Music or Stitcher. And with that being said, have a great day. Thanks, guys.